Hey guys, so this is my presentation for my chemistry issues and ethics class. So the topic of this video is climate change. The way we're going to look at this is through data collection and comparing data collected from the United States to data collected from the rest of the world. And more specifically, to do this, we are going to take a look at carbon dioxide emissions, global temperature levels, spending, and what we can do as individuals to help fix this problem. So, the first thing we are going to do is we are going to take a look at the global temperature over a series of 131 years. So since 1880, the global temperature has increased by 1.7 degrees Celsius, where the 10 warmest years during this time were after 2000, with 2015 being the warmest year to date. So in order to see what the world might have looked like during the 1880s all the way through now, what it might have looked like temperature-wise, we are going to look at a time series taken from the EPA's website. This time series starts in 1884, and we are going to take a look at 5 additional years ending in 2015. So first we're going to look at 1884. So as you can see from this picture of the globe, the entire globe, for the most part, minus a few spots here and there, is around 0 degrees. Then in 1920, the global temperature had come close to almost entirely being at 0 degrees, with barely anything, maybe 2 spots, not at or below 0 degrees. Moving on to 1955, most of the world had continued to decrease. However, there were a couple areas that had grown to being above 0 degrees, where the hottest area was a lot of Antarctica. Unfortunately, by the time 2000 came along, almost the entire globe had flip-flopped from the way it was in the 1800s. Almost the entire world now was above 0 degrees, with a couple areas being at or below 0. So then in 2010, even more of the Earth's temperature had risen to the point where the only spots at or below 0 degrees was half of the Pacific Ocean and small pockets around Antarctica. Finally, in 2015, unfortunately, the entire globe, minus the few pockets that were around Antarctica from the previous picture, had completely risen to being above 0 degrees, with the warmest areas in this section of the world being the entire western half of North America, the Arctic Ocean, and all of Asia. So next we are going to take a look at emissions levels combined globally. So from 1990 to 2010, net emissions of carbon dioxide had increased by 42%. The emissions for nitrous oxide had increased by 9%, methane had increased by 15%, and fluorinated gases had nearly doubled. So in 2010, global emissions due to human activity was determined to be around 46 billion metric tons of greenhouse gases, representing a 35% increase since 1990. This graph takes the 4 types of gases that I had mentioned just now, and it takes them and compares them in several different years between 1990 to 2010. And so it shows us the percentage of each gas present in emissions that year, and then it compares it to other years, showing us how much these emissions levels increased each year. So the largest source of emissions was found to be from energy production and use, which was determined to be about 71% in 2010. So now we're going to look at emission comparison between different countries. So just like how different parts of the world have different emissions levels, the rate of increase in emissions is also different. In this graph, we can see the amount of emissions created by the United States and other countries from 1990 to 2012. And this is compared to not only how much it produced, but it also shows us how much their levels increased each year. So we know the data on the problems. So now the question is, what are countries doing to combat this? Well, one thing they're doing is they are spending money into areas that will combat the effects of climate change and also help fix future problems. Next, let's take a look at global funds raised globally. So there are two main sections that contributed to this during 2012. They were the public and private sectors. And during this year, global investment was determined to be around $359 billion. The chart shows the comparison between the two groups. In the public sector, there was several individual sectors that helped contribute the funds that it raised. These groups included project developers, manufacturers, and households. So on the left, we can see the comparison between the public and private sector in terms of how much they contributed. And on the right, we can see the comparison between the groups inside the public sector and how much they contributed. Finally, let's take a look at megacity spending data. In 2016, a study was conducted to determine the amounts of money spent on climate change in 10 megacities across the world during 2014 to 2015. These megacities included New York City, London, Paris, Beijing, and Mexico City. The study showed that cities were spending a combined total of $7.96 billion. The study also went and showed how much they were spending on adaptation activities. And these adaptation activities included transportation, professional services, the environment, health, disaster preparedness, agriculture. The developed countries, based on the study, seem to be spending more money than the cities in developing countries. And so while the percentage of money spent by each city appears to be similar on this graph, in reality, if you were to actually take a look at the individual monetary values, you would see that this is completely different. So for example, let's take a look at disaster preparedness. Examples of types of activities in disaster preparedness include coastal defenses, development of early warning systems, and advanced risk modeling. So if you were to compare the two cities, Addis Ababa and New York City, their percentages may look similar. However, looking at the actual monetary value of what they spend, Addis Ababa spends about $245,658 on disaster preparedness, while New York City, on the other hand, spends around $26,224,526.40. A huge difference between the two. So now there's really only one more question left we have to answer. Now what? I mean, we have the data on climate change, we know what the problem is, but what can we do as individuals about this? Well, one idea is we can try reducing our carbon footprint. And one thing that can help us do this is the carbon footprint calculator on the EPA's website. If you would like to actually try this out, here is the link to it. The link is also going to be in the description of this video, so if you want to check it out later, you can. So in order to help us actually understand this, we are going to use a man named Joe Climate. We're also going to take a look at his wife, Mary Climate, his son, Joe Climate Jr., and his other son, Billy Bob Climate. And so that we just have the most accurate depiction of what's happening with this calculator, we are going to say that the Climate family just so happens to live in the wonderful state of New York. More specifically, however, this family lives in the section of New York known as Long Island. So, being the climate friendly person that Joe is, he wants to reduce his carbon footprint. So, he goes to the EPA's website and pulls up the carbon footprint calculator. He puts in his zip code and the number of people in his family. So then he starts putting in his information. He puts in that his main source of heating is fuel oil. His electricity bill is $146 per month. Natural gas bill is $10.96 per month. Fuel oil is $207.67 a month. He also puts in that his family has 2 cars, him and his wife, and that combined they both drive about 562.5 miles a week. He's also going to put in that he recycles glass, aluminum, and plastic. So the carbon footprint calculator takes this information and it comes out with that the Climate family produces about 54,235 pounds of carbon dioxide a year. From what we can tell, he is doing generally kind of good. I mean, like his numbers are less than the average numbers, which is pretty good. However, Joe wants to reduce this even more. But so before we do this, let's take a look at how much it actually costs him to produce this much. So the only price we don't have is the price of that he pays to drive to refuel his car. Now this is negating any cost for maintenance. So let's say the price of gas in New York is $2.23. So given that he probably refuels each car once a week, for 1 month both cars spend about $193.80 to refuel. So take this number and add it into with all the other prices, and you get that the Climate family to produce 54,235 pounds of carbon dioxide a year, it's going to cost them $558.43. So now, like I said before, he's going to want to reduce this. The savings plan section of the calculator. This will provide options for what he can do to try to reduce his carbon footprint. So he's going to decide that he's going to increase his AC in the summertime by 5 degrees. In the wintertime, he's going to decrease his heating by 8 degrees. And so per week, he and his wife decide that they are going to, in total, drive 100 less miles. So this brings the amount that they spend each month down to $465.51. And so the calculator takes these numbers and it spits out a new number. It gives him that with the saving plan, if he were to implement it, it would mean that his family produces 47,553 pounds of carbon dioxide a year, which is a lot less than what he was producing before. So to sum up the savings plan for them, they save about $92.92 each month, which on Long Island is a nice chunk of cash. And each month they produce 598.25 less pounds of carbon dioxide. So what can we take from this? Well, lowering your carbon footprint will not only help lessen the effects of climate change, but it will also save you money. So to tie this into what we learned before from this video, this means that by lowering your carbon footprint, you save yourself money, which in turn could mean that the money that countries and cities are spending on adaptation activities could be reduced because they don't have to try as hard to combat the effects, because the effects are decreasing because we're producing less carbon dioxide. So they can focus that money that they don't need to spend on that now on to, say, research into climate change to help solve it. Or even they could put it into another project that doesn't have anything to do with climate change, but will benefit the country. In short, this means that you don't have to be some big scientist working on climate change to actually help fix the climate change problem. You can be your ordinary Joe who decides to reduce his carbon footprint. And by doing that, he helps save the planet. Hey, so thanks for watching this video. I hope you liked it. So in the description below, the very first link on there is a link to a Google Forms document, which is a short quiz and assessment of what you thought of the video. If you want to take part in this, just click on the link below, or you can type the link in right here. Thanks!